We have some NBA breaking news. The Indiana Pacers have made key players like Caris, Levert, Damontas, Sabonis, and Myles Turner available for trade. And if you're a Raptors fan, the one that's important there is Myles Turner, as the Raptors are desperate to bring in a center. So in today's video, we break down, should the Raptors trade for the Indiana center, Myles Turner, and what would the trade look like? Let's get into it. Welcome NBA and Raptors fans. This is Amateur Hour Sports, the channel where you get NBA content with a focus on the Toronto Raptors at least 4 times a week. So if you like what you see from today's video and you want more of myself talking about the NBA and the Raptors and videos and content just like this, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Help us on a road to 8,000 subscribers, and I promise you will not regret it. But let's get down to business for today's video. So the Pacers, they're in this predicament here. They have a really tough record this season, and they're going nowhere with the current team, and they've decided that rebuilding is the best thing for the franchise. And I have to say that I agree with this. And if they are going into rebuild mode, it's pretty early on in the season, they need to get rid of some assets, bring in some picks, bring in some young players. What they decided to do is make Caris, Levert, Damontas, Sabonis, and Myles Turner available for trade. They're going to clean house and completely reset this off the back of a pretty successful decade for the Indiana Pacers. I mean, I don't know what the expectations of fans are. I think they mishandled the Paul George situation, but ultimately they put together a lot of playoff performances, not really many playoff wins, but the Pacers, I really felt like they had to make that one big move to go and contend for a championship that they just never made. And it's kind of spiraled to get worse and worse every season. And now they're in this position here. I just want to stick up for Raptors coach Nate Bjorkgren here. He was blamed a lot for what happened to the Pacers last season. But, you know, after only getting rid of him in the offseason, and we're seeing where the Pacers are now, I think we got to take a bit of the blame off Nate Bjorkgren, Pacers fans. But regardless, how does this affect the Toronto Raptors? Well, it does have a pretty significant effect on the Raptors because we are looking to get a center. I mean, Raptors fans, we have been clamoring the Raptors to go and get a center and bring into this team all the way through the season. After the first 2 games, we saw what it looked like with Precious Achiuwa. You know, Ken Burge is doing great, but we need another center, especially one who can protect the rim. Myles Turner, oh my goodness, is he good at protecting the rim? He puts up some great stat lines, pretty good for a center. He spends a lot of his time on the outside because Sabonis is the one that is more interior dominant for this team, and they still use both of them. I really felt like they should have committed to one going forward. Regardless, Myles Turner's stats, he's a good outside player for a center, but he averages about 12 to 13 points per game, only about 6 to 7 rebounds a game, but that is, again, because he spends a lot of his time on the outside. He is a good shooter this season, shooting almost 40% from 3, but historically, in the last 2 seasons, he's about a 35 to 38% three-point shooter, which is very, very good for a center. And I think that if he was playing for the Raptors, a lot of the stats that would develop are maybe a little bit in the points, but definitely a lot more rebounds. I think this is a player who can easily average a double-double. I mean, rim protection. He has led the NBA in blocks 3 of the last 4 seasons, averaging 3.4 blocks per game in the previous season. So Myles Turner seems like exactly what the Raptors need, a rim protector on defense who can actually space the floor on offense. Wow, this would be a great pickup for the Raptors. Or would it? I mean, you saw the title of the video. Let's not beat around the bush here. This one may not make a ton of sense for the Raptors. The player, that makes a lot of sense for the Raptors. I would absolutely love to have a player like Myles Turner on this team. However, you're going to have to trade for him. You can't just sign him. You're going to have to send some assets the way of Indiana to bring in Myles Turner. The Raptors right now are in a little bit of a retool mode. I don't think it's quite full rebuild mode here for the Raptors, but it is easily retool mode for the Raptors. They are just trying to find the right pieces to build around the core players on this team. And I think that this season, even though we are the 12 seed right now, we're actually closer to the 4 seed than we are to the 13 seed, which is a little bit of an interesting dynamic here. What that means is that the Raptors are pretty good, but the East is absolutely loaded this season. It's absolutely loaded this season. It's going to be a very, very difficult year to go and compete. So how much are the Raptors willing to sacrifice from their current roster to bring in a player like Myles Turner? And how much does Myles Turner affect the current Raptors? How much better does he make the Raptors? I think that if Myles Turner comes in, I think that we can properly say that this team is going to finish in a low playoff seed. We're going to improve. One of the biggest areas of concern this season, maybe the biggest, is that center position along with maybe some bench scoring. So how about a trade to the Pacers where we can do a little bit of both? But the problem is the Raptors don't really have a ton of assets we are willing to trade. Therefore, the enticing part of this deal is going to come from draft capital. And right now for the Raptors, who again are in this retool mode, first round picks are our greatest asset, basically. We need to hold on to our first round picks because, well, the Raptors are pretty damn good at drafting players. And number two, that is the foundation for success going into the future. Is Myles Turner the foundation for success into the future? I don't quite think so. And Myles Turner, 2 years, $18 million a year on his contract right now. Are we really going to find a ton of success in that time? That is a question that we need to discuss. But I did my best to come with a little bit of a mock trade here because I just don't really know how this works out for both teams. But the Raptors would receive Myles Turner and Jeremy Lamb, so you get that center that you need, and you get a little bit of bench scoring that you desperately need on this team. And in return, you got to give away Goran Dragic, Chris Boucher, Malachi Flynn, Precious Achiuwa, as well as a 2023 first-round pick, so next season when you're hoping the Raptors are better, and this year's second-round pick. It's a little bit of a difficult situation. I mean, it doesn't really matter what year's the second is, but definitely don't want to give away this year's first-round pick 100%. Can't give away this year's first-round pick. So looking at this trade, Pacers fans, allow you to calm down for a second. Don't think this one is going to work. I don't think the Indiana Pacers have any interest whatsoever in taking on Goran Dragic. And as for the rest, I mean, not a horrible return, but I feel like the Pacers can do better elsewhere. Raptors fans, please comment down below how many times you have started an NBA trade machine trade mock that has Chris Boucher and Goran Dragic as a starter. Please let me know. I've done it. Oh boy, too many times to count. But that trade in particular, I mean, I was playing around in the trade machine. I was looking at articles, looking at everything else, and there wasn't really any trade that made sense for the Indiana Pacers here. They don't need Goran Dragic. They obviously would like to get some draft capital, but Myles Turner is going to another team. I think there are plenty of teams interested in taking his services. They can probably get a good deal, a better one than this somewhere else. If the Raptors want to move Goran Dragic in this trade, which kind of makes sense because he's making $19.4 million, Myles Turner's making $18 million, you're going to have to find a third team to get involved in this trade. Maybe somebody who has some big contracts like the Utah Jazz, but then again, don't really know what the Utah Jazz want to do with that contract either. So it's a very difficult circumstance. The Raptors don't really have those sort of assets that we'd be willing to part with that makes sense for the Indiana Pacers, unless you're going to add in maybe 2 first-round picks. But again, first-round picks are like our greatest asset because we don't attract the biggest free agents. Myles Turner won't help us immediately. We want to build for the future, and we do that through first-round picks and our wealth of knowledge in the scouting department. That is how the Raptors operate. That is essentially how he went on to win an NBA championship. So as far as a player goes in particular in Myles Turner, yeah, I would absolutely love to have Myles Turner on this team. He would fit right into our starting 5. He could space the floor on offense, be that outside shooter, but also have a little bit of a presence on the interior. Defensively, a fantastic rim protector. One thing you would have to be a little bit concerned about is he the best at going to defend in the perimeter? The Raptors play pretty positionless. Can Myles Turner provide that role? I think he would do a good enough job on the outside to make it worthwhile. Again, this is a Myles Turner who's been playing with Damontas Sabonis. They've had to rotate in that system. They can't both be bunkered down into paint. So Myles Turner definitely fits into what the Raptors want to do, and he makes us better. How much better does he make us? How much better does he make the team when you consider the fact that we do have to give away a lot of good assets in order to make this deal happen? Does he make us good enough to be contenders in the next couple of years when his contract is on? I don't really think so. As much as he makes us better, is this really going to help us lay the foundation for a potential future championship? I don't really think that is the case. Right now, when the Raptors make any sort of business decisions, I think a future down the road championship has to be the first thing on our mind. And does this help us get there? I don't think it does. As much as I would love the Raptors to be like a little bit more competitive this season making a trade, I just don't know if it makes enough sense for the Raptors, and it really just doesn't make sense for the Pacers unless we give away a host of assets to make it happen. And obviously, Damontas Sabonis would be available as well, but the assets you'd have to give away become even greater in order to make that trade happen. So the focus of the Raptors has to be on Myles Turner in this specific situation. I understand you guys watching this video, a lot of you really want to bring in Myles Turner. Listen, like I said in the video, I would love to have Myles Turner on this team, but it just doesn't really make sense for both parties. Obviously, my focus is on the Raptors, and I can't really find a trade that makes this one work. I did a video a couple weeks ago saying, a few trades that you can make with Goran Dragic to bring in centers to help out this team. And I did not include the Indiana Pacers in that discussion even before the players were made available because, well, I played with it. Believe me, I played with the Indiana Pacers and the Toronto Raptors in the trade machine, and there's just really no good deal that helps out both teams, that makes it worthwhile for both teams. So I find this one really unlikely to happen. I find this one extremely unlikely. I would love to be surprised by a trade happening because I know Masai is not going to let himself get fleeced, and if there's not a lot of interest in Turner, maybe something can happen. But based on my preliminary analysis of this situation, the Raptors have to give away at least one first-round pick to make this one happen. And if a first-round pick is involved in the trade for Myles Turner, then I'm out. And as a result, the Raptors should not make a trade for Myles Turner despite the fact that he is available. We'll let somebody else handle that. We'll keep our chips on the table here. The East is stacked. We'll let it all play out and see where we are in a few years, but we don't need to make this trade here to help us out in the future. So what do you guys make of this Myles Turner situation? Do you think the Raptors have a possibility of making a trade that would bring the player back to the team? Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, because that is it for me for today. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please give a like on the video if you did enjoy. It goes a long way to supporting the channel, helping us reach some new viewers. And remember to subscribe to Amateur Hour Sports. We want to hit 8,000 subscribers by the end of the year, if it is possible. I don't think it is, but please prove me wrong. You get 4 Raptors videos a week when you do subscribe. And make sure you check out some other videos by the channel. They're over here. The subscribe button is blocking my face. Very easy to click on right now. We'll see you again next time for another video.